Welcome to Sanctified and Stilettos, where faith meets real life with grace, grit, and a touch of glam. Today we're talking about radical resilience, and I'm so excited because we have a guest with us today all the way from D.C., because y'all know we're in Cleveland, Ohio now, but we got a guest from D.C., and I am just excited to have her with us today, especially on our second episode of Sanctified and Stilettos. So I am going to introduce to you all Dr. Tyrese McAllister, and I'm going to let her tell her own story as we really talk about this idea of what is radical resilience. And so when we think about radical resilience, it's about this idea of how do we bounce back? How do we come back from being beat down, knocked down, trauma, abuse, and everything to get up and continue to go? And hopefully, you know, somebody out there, when you're listening, you're thinking about your own story and what it means to be resilient, especially to be radically resilient. And so without further ado, Tyrese, welcome.
Hello. I'm glad to be here.
Yes, I'm so glad to have you. Thank you for coming. And I have to say, I have enjoyed, and you all, the thing is, Tyrese has been with me all day today. So when you watch this recording or when you watch this podcast episode, Tyrese and I have been together doing a women's workshop today. And so we're going to touch a little bit on that, but mostly talk about radical resilience. And so Tyrese, again, thank you for being in Cleveland, Ohio.
Thank you for having me.
At least you picked a good time to come.
Yes, because Cleveland can get cold.
Yeah. You know, I was telling somebody, it's interesting because it's like 40 something today. I think it's almost like 47, which somebody said, it's cold for Cleveland. I said, no, it's cold. I said, well, nah, not for Cleveland in October.
Exactly.
So this is a good time, and we're glad to have you with us. And so tell us a little bit about who is Dr. McAllister? Who is Tyrese?
All right. So I am a mother, a wife, I am a therapist. I've been a therapist for 30 years. Most of my career, I've done emergency mental health. So helping people out of traumatic situations, helping people who are experiencing psychosis or psychiatric crises. In the last 5 years, I've been training police and first responders on how to deal with people with mental illness, but can't do that really without talking to them about their own mental health issues. We know that law enforcement, the mental health issues show up a lot more in the work because of the work. So I'm treating superheroes, and that's how I like to look at the work. I've also experienced my own trauma. In 2017, I lost my youngest daughter, Ayana, to gun violence, and was able to overcome that trauma for myself. And so ever since then, God gave me a message about radical resilience because he wasn't going to just bring me back. He was bringing me back with a vengeance.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. And especially when you think about losing your daughter, that was not an easy feat. That was not an easy thing to go through. So in that, do you mind sharing what happened with your daughter before we even jump into what happened with your daughter?
Yeah. So I had a 18-year-old college freshman and a 19-year-old college freshman. They went away to college. They had come home. They were home on spring break. And they had went out with some friends, and just somewhere off in the distance, somebody started shooting into the crowd. So there was no fight, no argument, no domestic violence. And my daughter was shot. She survived about 12 hours. And then she transitioned.
And I know one of the things, and we can get into this, and I'm not an expert, so y'all, I want y'all to think, I'm not a therapist, so I'm not taking this, but I want you all to hear from someone, is one of the things that I do know, though, is in retelling this story, you deal with the trauma over and over again in the retelling. How has that impacted you in talking about, because you've turned this into a ministry, you've turned this into work, you've turned this into helping others when you talk about the death of your daughter?
So actually, I'm not traumatized every time I tell the story. Sometimes I could tell it without crying at all. And sometimes I'm a little tearful, but not because I'm traumatized. I really feel like I'm very healed from that. I was very intentional about getting healed because what I knew as a therapist is that staying stuck would not serve me. And I really knew right away that God had something for me to do because he was very clear in communicating it to me. I just didn't know what it was, but I knew whatever it was, I wouldn't be able to do it holding on to trauma, unforgiveness, and all the other feelings that came with what I was dealing with when she was killed.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about that and think about what you've done and how you have taken that and created this whole ministry, this whole thing around, and especially with therapy and trauma, why radical? Why do you use that word? Why do you use radical resilience? What?
And that's a great question. And I think the thing for me is that when I look at specifically Black women, right, we're survivors. We're going to survive everything we go through. Like, it's not an issue that are we going to survive it. But for me, I wanted to be more than a survivor. Yeah, sure. After my daughter was killed, am I going to be able to go back to work and do all the things I was doing? Yeah. I mean, that's what we do. But I wanted to honor her memory and her create a legacy for her that she wasn't able to create herself, and I could not do that playing ordinary. I could not do that if I stayed stuck. And then also I realized too that we were created to honor God, and despite my traumatic situation, I couldn't honor God carrying that weight. So I made a decision to let it go, right? And that's the difference between bouncing back, because we're all going to survive. Like, it's no, if you talking to somebody, they done survived what they've been through. But how do you change? How do you come back from that full of love, no unforgiveness, and able to really excel in whatever God has for you to do?
And I think that's the difficult thing, is that many people, they end up in a space and they deal with something like death, they deal with something like trauma, abuse, or a rape or anything like that, and they stay stuck in that space. And so to talk about that bounce back, that resilience from coming back, and we can even think about it from the lens of even when we talk about Black women. And Black women as a community, as a whole, not just as individuals, but when we think about it from that lens of community, and how many times we done bounced back and had to bounce back because of the things that we deal with and what it means to sit in that space. And I think very often what happens is that people sit in the space and they don't have the tools to get out, or they don't have the tools to bounce back.
They don't have the tools. They also get comfortable. Like, it feels good to feel sorry for myself. It feels good when everybody else feels sorry for me because they start taking care of me. So that's one thing. But I also think that it's a mindset, right? Like, and I don't want to blame the victim, because certainly my family was victimized by, well, we could have been victimized, but I decided for myself and for my family that we would be survivors and not victims, right? That my daughter's life was taken, and my choice was to give my life over, because nobody was taking it, and stay in bed and stay stuck, or I could do something different. And that was the choice I made. Like, I'm not going to just now, don't get me wrong, there were days I stayed in bed because I couldn't get myself up. But there were days that I'm like, you know what, I got work to do, right? Like, my community is dying because of the gun violence on a lot of levels, and this is my opportunity to do something about it. And that's the radical part, right? And then how I did it and why I did it is what made it radical. I'm certainly not the first mother who's lost a child to gun violence. And in this work that I'm doing with gun violence, I've met mothers who've lost 2 and 3 children to gun violence. But the difference is, what do we do to change the environment? If I don't like it, then I can change it, or I can choose to stay there. And so I knew I had a different kind of choice to make. And I knew that was the right choice for me, because I know what God put in me before this ever happened.
Yeah. How did you realize that what was it about this that made you know that this was a mission that God had for you? This was an assignment, this was purposeful, that it was something that God had given for you to do.
Yes, I don't know if we have time for all the things, right? But the week that Ayanna, she got shot on a Monday, she died Tuesday morning. And there was so many things that God had revealed to me in that week. One thing that I thought was very poignant is that the insurance that we had for our children or for our family, our life insurance policy, had changed hands. You know how a company will buy another company? So it had changed hands, and I had our insurance papers in my purse when I showed up at the hospital. Who has that? Like, God had prepared that. I had those papers in my pocket since Thursday. And here it is Tuesday morning. They're telling me my daughter's dead, and I got the policy in and my daughters have been insured since they were 2 months old. So that was interesting, right? The several other things during that week. God woke me up at 5 o'clock every single morning, and I call them downloads. He was downloading stuff for me to understand. One, prior to her being shot, the year before, I had worked as a therapist, but I had dealt with about maybe 4 or 5 people on forgiveness. Forgiveness of different things. So when our local news person came to interview me and I forgave the person who killed her, people were like amazed. Oh my God, you forgave him. But God had prepared me for that. Like I had done the forgiveness work a year before, and I thought it was for my clients, but it was really for me. God had brought back into my remembrance some conversations me and my daughters had about death and dying. And I'm thinking, as a mother, I'm preparing my kids to live without me.
Yeah.
Because one day they will, surely, because that's the order
cycle.
of
That's
things.
what we think.
Right,
yeah.
that's divine order. Never knowing what I was pouring into my daughters was going to come back for me, and I was going to need it. And what I told my daughters is that when I die, that I'm okay because I know God. 2, to be absent from the body is to be present with the Lord. So don't mourn me long. Certainly miss me, because I'm a good mother, right? But certainly miss me, but you don't have to mourn me long because I'm with God and I'll be waiting for you. And God just gave that right back to me. Like, you don't have to mourn her because she knew God. And I was like, if I didn't do anything else as a mother, because as a mother, we think, oh, did I do this right? Did I do that right? But the thing is that one thing I did for both of my girls is they knew God. Yeah. And I was very confident of that. And God showed me like, yeah, she knew me. She knows me. And she's here with me. And I just was so comfortable in that I was able to bury my child. And I don't even say bury. I was able to plant her. And I stood in expectation that when she went into the ground, that God was going to sprout some stuff up. Right? Like, and this was not about me, right? But God was going to use this situation for what what is.
Yeah.
The other thing that happened, that another story God that had brought to my memories, somewhere in the middle of my children's like young teenage years, I started riding a motorcycle. My grandmother calls it a midlife crisis, right?
That's what they always say. They always attribute when we do everything
to a midlife
crisis.
crisis.
And I had a whole conversation of why do we call it a midlife crisis?
Right.
It's not. We just want some change at a
Some
certain
changes,
age.
right? So my husband was saying, well, you might kill yourself. And I said, God is, if I die, it's because I'm supposed to die.
Right, it's
Our
my
death
time.
date is appointed before we're born. Before we're born, God knows how I'm going to die, when I'm going to die. I don't get to choose that. And God is not going to be a God that's going to punish me because I'm riding a motorcycle. Right. And that showed me, too, that it reminded me that Ayana's death date was the same. Her death date was
her work had been done
before, and whatever it was. And we can't know the death date because, of course, if I knew she was going to get shot that day, she'd have never left the house.
She wouldn't have left the house.
And that would be me playing God. And I'm not God. And being able to sit with that. So those things made me able to plant my baby and stand in great expectation of what God would do. And when I say I would still rather have my child back, but some amazing things have been able to occur in her honor. Yeah. And so it is well with my soul.
And as I'm listening to you talk about mothers, I think about my mom. And my mom always says this. She was like, I just used to be so concerned because when we think about it, and you said this, when we think about death, you think about parents going before the child. And so that's the natural order of things. And so my mom would always say, her prayer was that me and my brother would be good and that we would be okay before she dies. Yeah. And I joked with her the other day because she's 82 now. And she said something about, I think you all gonna be okay. I said, if we not gonna be okay now, there's no hope for us because we good and grown. Right, so ain't no hope now. So it's listening to you say that. And I know other mothers who have lost their children, and especially to violence. And it's the natural cycle that we think that the parents gonna go before the child. Yeah. And so with Ayana, what were some of the things that came out when you think about, that came out of her death that have grown with that seed being planted, things that have grown from her death?
Well, one of the things that happened is friends of ours, their daughter was 5 at the time, and right after Ayana was killed, We were at their home, and she asked a question about Ayana, and a horrific look on her parents' face was like, "Don't ask her." And I'm like, "Well, she got questions. She's 5, and then when the 18-year-old's not coming back, she got questions." So what I did was went to look for a book for her to help. I explained it to her. I told the parents it was okay, but I also went to look for a book, not just for her, but I figured that children in my family also had some questions. Could not find the book, and God said, "You're gonna write that book," and I'm like, okay, keep it moving, right? Like, I'm not a children's book writer. Like, that's a skill. Like, it's simple,
Yeah.
but it is an
It's a
art to
skill.
it. And God gave me the book, and the book was amazing. So it was just really for my family initially. I was just going to share it with the kids in my family. And I let 2 of my friends who are educators read it, and they were like, "Oh no, you have to share this book. This book is way too good
Yeah.
for you to not share it." And so that's one of the things. And then we created a caregiver guide to help people who were dealing with death know how to talk to children about the different types of death. Because if you get shot at school, or your friend gets shot by the police, or your friend gets killed, kills themselves, it's different conversations.
Yep.
And I'm a therapist, so I know what to say, but there are lots of parents who don't know what to say. And what happens is they don't say anything. Kids go on to play because that's what children do, and they think they are right. And then by the time they're 30 or 40, they're in therapy because nobody ever talked to them, and they never had a chance to express it.
Why do you think that we are so we and I guess it's probably community and that sort of thing that has kept, especially when we talk about the Black community, we talk about us keeping things to ourselves, not talking about them, not having the guidance. I mean, I know a lot of it is access of not knowing and not knowing that therapy exists. I was talking to somebody and they said to me, "I didn't know that I could go to therapy for the relationship with my mom and what I've dealt with my mom." And so I think that's the perspective of therapy, having this lens that it's only, and I think probably for either trauma or couples.
Well, and also people think that, well, couples therapy people embrace, but people really don't want to be crazy. You know, Black women have been called so many names that we want to protect ourselves. I work with police officers, and what I have to do with them is not call a diagnosis. We'll just talk about why you're not sleeping at night. Right? Well, I mean, I know that it's anxiety, and for the insurance papers, I have to put anxiety. But when I'm talking to that officer, he can't hear.
He can't
Once I
handle
say
anxiety.
anxiety, he done stopped listening to me. But if I could talk to him about why are you not sleeping, and what we can do to help you get a good night's sleep, they buy right into it, right? So we gotta really dismiss the stigmas and really treat the whole person, right? And the other part of that is when I feel like my client may benefit from medication, then we talk about all the other things too that they can benefit from. Because one, and we really saw this during COVID, is that sunshine is integral to our mental health and our physical health, right? And people were not getting sun, being in nature. And so city dwellers really miss a lot, you know, in the city, but we need nature. We need to be able to walk barefoot and be grounded. Like, those are things that are integral to our health. Our diet, the American diet, is some trash.
It's horrible.
Even when people eat well,
Yep.
are they really eating well? Because a lot of the food is GMO. Like, you don't have seeds in watermelons or cucumbers. And I know that those didn't grow in the ground because our food's supposed to have seeds, okay? So even when people eat well, so it's our diet, it's our mindset. Like, we get overwhelmed with stuff, and we hide and bury a lot of stuff, which means we can't heal. So now we walking around ill, right? Ill, just not well, because of not being healed in one area of our life that affects another area of our life. And so a lot of times people can't buy into it. But like what I tell police, like who say they don't need therapy, I'm like, but you're on your 4th marriage. Bruh, it's you, okay? Sis, you can't get along with the people in your household.
Right.
It's you. Everybody at your precinct can't be wrong.
But you know, people don't want to accept that it's me. People
It's
don't.
hard.
It's hard to. It's
hard
hard
to
to take
accept.
responsibility for you having any issues that's creating to the problem.
And I think when we look at it, you said the magic word, when we look at it as I'm taking responsibility versus I'm taking blame, because blame don't help anybody. Like, I can blame you and it might be your fault, but then what?
Right.
But if you take responsibility, you own it, which also means you can change it, right? Like, so if I take responsibility for the wrong that I'm doing, and I'm not a victim, right? Because now I can change it. But if it's always somebody else, then I don't have any control. And so when I learned that, being a control freak that I am, I was like, yeah, let me see what part I play in my own demise, right? Like I don't want to play in it. And I think too, like a lot of people, and we really saw this during COVID as well, people don't want to be alone with their thoughts. I love being
True.
alone with my thoughts. Like I can really dig deep. I can make some changes. I also have people in my life who are accountable because it is hard to see yourself,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
you're not looking at a mirror, or even if I'm looking at what I think I'm giving out, right? I'm not looking at how people really receive me, but I have a mother who gonna keep it 100,
Right.
110
Ain't
actually.
that the truth?
Yeah, and I have people in my life that be like, "Nah, you shouldn't have did that," or "No, that was yeah, you were wrong on that."
Right.
And I got to be able to eat that. But I'm also not a perfectionist, right? So I don't feel like I have to do everything right. And when I do wrong, I'm open to see it because I don't think I'm perfect.
Yeah, and I think that matters. Like me, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not a perfectionist. And I joke, I'm a procrastinator unless I'm busy. If I'm busy, then I can manage my time well. If I'm not busy,
I'm the
my
same way.
time
I'm
it
the
just
same
does not
way.
work. And I don't know what that is.
It's a trauma response,
Is,
but it's
is it a trauma?
It is.
Tell me more about my trauma response.
No, I have it too.
So what? So tell
So it's sort of like the experiences like we go through, being busy and I try not to be busy. I try to be productive.
Right.
Am I just doing things to do things, or does this produce something else? Right, which really then helps me manage it. But the more I have to do, the better I do. Otherwise, I can't get up and to get the level of motivation I
Right.
need to move on my own. And I really haven't dug deep into that yet because I got other stuff I'm working through. But like, I just think we all should be working through some of our stuff. And this is the thing. Not everybody is going to go to a therapist, but there are podcasts you can listen to. Like hopefully today, people will take some opportunity to listen and learn something new about themselves, to dig deeper. But there's self-help books that people can look at. Like when I think of myself, I work on myself. I work hard on myself. Like when you see this is progress,
Yeah.
right? Like I work on emotional intelligence so that I can have a response. I work on making sure that I'm not bleeding on people who didn't cut me. Like, cause there are places in me that hurt, right? Like when my daughter got killed, like I could have took a couple of
you
people off the mat.
you could have took some people out.
However, it wasn't the person who hurt me. So I just needed to maybe have some time to myself because I wasn't in the right space. At the time, I was the director of mobile crisis in Washington, D.C., which ain't no easy job. So I had to take adequate amount of time off. I had to call in some days and say, I can't do it today because it wasn't a day for me to go in to be able to, I had to have my head on in a way that I'm managing 30 other people in their lives and making sure they're safe. So there were days I couldn't do it. And I encourage my staff, if there's days you can't do it, that's what vacation and days off. Like, don't come in here and have do the job. You got to be able to, get yourself together. And the same thing with police. I encourage them, like, listen, if your head is not in the game, you're a danger out there and you're a danger to other people. However, the police culture don't really support that because they need bodies there. But you're going to have hell on your hands if you don't allow people to get their rest or to be able to say no, that they can't do the job today.
Yeah, and I think we constantly are on the go. We constantly move. We constantly don't value what it means to be in good mental health. And we let all of these things impact us. I mean, I think about some of the stuff that I've dealt with. For example, like more recently, with me being laid off from work, and as Associate Vice President for Diversity and Inclusion, I've run into people, and you may have heard me say this, but I've run into people who have said to me, "Man, you look good. You look so good. You look really good." And I was thinking to myself, was I haggard? Like, what was I looking like? But the stress being in those environments was taking a toll on me, but I don't even know the stress is taking a toll on me. And so I think that's another thing.
Normal.
Because it becomes normal. And I was normalized. So this is work. This is what I'm doing every day, not realizing that it's eating me up. It's eating me alive. And the stress was causing me to be burdened without me even knowing that I'm not, let me say this, without me knowing that I'm looking like I'm burdened.
Yeah.
and that became the normal look for everyone else. So when they see me now, it's like, you look free, you look good. I'm just happy. And I say that to say how, in keeping with, not knowing that you're dealing with stress, and that stress is eating you that way. How do we deal with that? And then something else I want to ask, just for my own clarity, and I'm sure somebody in the audience too, but this idea of trauma response. What does trauma response mean? I've heard that term used. You used it here today, talking about me and my procrastination when I'm not busy. And so what?
Mine too. I got it too.
Right. And here's the other thing that I do is and you talked about doing stuff and it's being productive. It's not just busy, it's that I'm doing to be productive. And I'll catch myself that if I see I got 10 extra minutes, I'm going to get something done. And then I end up late because I'm like, I had these 10 extra minutes, so I'm going to get this done. But now I'm late for where I was supposed to be because I took the 10 minutes when I really should have just been leaving and doing what I needed to do. So this I know I just probably went on a whole lot of different things, but I'm thinking about the hidden stress that we don't know that we're dealing with half the time. And then what is trauma response? Because I know that term is used, but I'm not clear on what trauma response actually textbook means.
Okay, so hidden stress is not hidden, it's unacknowledged. Like everybody else could see it, they could feel it. Oh yeah.
Ooh, y'all felt my stress. Did y'all feel my stress?
It's unacknowledged. And like I've done 30 years of mobile crisis type of work, and the police would love when I was on the scene because they knew things were going to be taken care of. And people like, you don't get stressed. How do you do that job? And I'm like, yeah, it don't bother me. It's other people's stuff, right? But 40 pounds later, I knew that, it had a toll on me, right? Because I'm eating Snickers and Milky Ways to keep the energy. Yes, I'm managing the job, but the food is managing me because that was my comfort. And so we don't always know, and we don't have an appreciation of what stress does to ourselves, because if you go off on somebody, you don't die of a heart attack or you don't have a heart attack. But that doesn't mean your body is not, your nervous system is on 10. And like police officers, if you think that adrenaline is pumping every day, several times a day, especially if you're an inner city officer, right? It's on 10 all day, and then you come down. And then we have a lot of deaths because police officers, after they retire or after they leave the force, they die. They don't last long until retirement because their body is used up here, and then now it's here. And it's like, we don't see how that tears the body down. Same thing for us as people, right? Like we don't see the road rage. Like you just think once you get to work, that's gone. But you don't put your cells, your system into a disarray. And so that stays with you all day. And then it's piled on because now you're stressed at work. And then so when you get home, you don't have the patience for the kids. It's not the kids. Kids being kids, they doing what kids do.
Yep.
But you yelling, hollering, cussing, right? Not that I haven't done those things, right? But when I learned to feel what stress is, so I started learning to manage my stress. But we other things we don't look at stress, like we don't call it stress, but it is stress on the body. Angry all the time. I'm just mad. Everything pisses me off. Everything irritates me. Why they doing this? I'm all in people business. I don't have good boundaries. So those are the trauma responses, right? I feel like how I grew up, I got to fix everybody. Well, no, I don't have to fix everybody. Right. Or I feel like I have to people please. I want them to like me. I don't care if you like me or not. I'm here to serve God, not you. And that don't mean it in a mean way, but like that's where I got to have a good check. Like you shared earlier about having a capacity, right? So yeah, I'm not a people pleaser, and there are people who are not going to like no. And I work with my clients on that a lot because lots of people are people pleasers. Even Oprah Winfrey shared that she was a people pleaser. I'm like, if Oprah Winfrey is trying to please people, I know I need to get over it. But when I realized that why I'm here, why am I here? It is to please God. It's not to please everybody else. So I usually say, if they not paying this mortgage over here, I don't care.
That's what I say.
Yeah, because I don't have the capacity to hold what everybody thinks of me, right? Like that's where, I had to look at like, what is my capacity and what are the things that I'm putting in that don't belong? If I take that stuff out, I have a capacity to do a lot. but it might not be the capacity to do what you want me to do.
That you want me to do, yeah. Because I used to say, I had to get to the point where, and even I started saying this at work and not realizing still that I was stressed, but I used to say this at work: if I die, you're going to find somebody else to replace me.
That part.
Yeah, you're going to find somebody. And
Before
just like now,
goes.
you laid me off and you found somebody else, I'm sure. Well, no, you didn't. You didn't find anybody else to replace me.
That's right. That's right.
But it's one of those things that we allow so much to take over who we are and our person, our being, and it causes us those stressors. And so I'm just thinking about how many times I allowed something else. So I got to the point where I was like, if you're not paying my bills and you're not writing my check, I cannot be concerned about what you're doing unless it's directly impacting or affecting me.
And not just that, even if you're signing my check, there's a cutoff to that.
Yeah.
At 5 o'clock, I'm
right.
done.
I'm
right.
leaving.
So that type of thing. But I think we have to realize that, like, why we're here and what is it that we want, right? Like, what is it that I am supposed to do? Mm-hmm. If I stay busy doing that, I don't have the capacity for anybody else's stuff. So I'm not nosy. I don't wonder what they doing or what's going on over there, because God got me busy over here, which also is a protective factor, right? Like, I'm not in my family, I'm the last to know anything. Because first of all, they don't call me with the junk, because I'm not going to talk about nobody. I'm going to be like, well, let's pray for them. They don't want to pray, so they ain't calling me.
They ain't going to pray.
That's fine. I wish I knew that years ago. So they not going to want to do that. Or even like my friendship circle. I manage who's in my friendship circle. So if you don't bring the best out of me, you don't have access to me, right? So I don't want to be tight. So what I tell people is it's really about protecting your peace. And how do you do that? How do you protect your peace? Because you hear people say it all the time when one, they not peaceful, but that's a whole nother show. But how do you protect your peace? One, you mind your business, right? If you just mind what you supposed to be doing, what God had for you to do, you'll find that that's a full-time job. You don't have time for anybody else. Another protective factor is really being able to be connected with God. I find that when you have that God connection, the downloads that he gives you are so amazing. Yeah.
Like,
because I was wondering, when other people go through a tragedy, like, is God talking to them like he's talking to me? Right? Because I was like, it was so clear that it was God to me.
Right.
So clear. Like, he would wake me up at 5 o'clock in the morning, every morning. Like, that's not me having to go to the bathroom. That's God.
That's God.
That was God. And he giving me different downloads that really helped me through my situation. And so being in that space, I think the other thing that really helped me with my daughter's homicide, I didn't take it personal. I didn't think God was mad with me.
Okay.
I didn't think God was trying to punish me or her, because we God's girls, right? Like, we serve God. I didn't say, oh, I've been serving you. Why did you do this? I had told my daughter years ago that I didn't belong to her, I belong to God, and that we were on loan to each other, and that thinking, of course, it would be me who would go, but not to be mad with God, because God have a right to call us back, because we his.
Because we belong to him. Yeah.
And God gave me that right back. Like, Ayana was his. And he is the one person that could love her better than me. So right then, I remember thinking of that one morning and just woke up crying. And just thinking, I love that baby so much. And God said, you didn't love her more than me.
Yeah.
My face dried up like the desert. I was like, whoa, okay.
Right, because that's a slap.
Baby.
Because nobody can love you more than God
I knew it
loves
was true.
you. Yep.
I knew it was true.
And,
you know
and
what
to
I'm
hear
saying?
that, but I think that's the other thing, to hear that type of God speaking to you that way speaks volumes for where you are.
Yeah.
And what many people, and even though we talk about this, is that faith and therapy go hand in hand. They go together. But often folks don't have that God connection. They don't have that spiritual connection. They don't
Even
have that
when they think they
alignment,
do.
even when they think they do. And when tragedy hits or something, traumatic hits, then all of that, what I thought I had, goes out the window, because I really didn't have the faith that I thought I had.
So what's funny is that my daughters had come home for spring break that Thursday. And so they stayed in the house most of the week, and we had done stuff as a family. And Monday, my daughter asked, could they go out with their friends? And I was like, oh, yeah, go ahead. I was at work. And, of course, I could have felt like, oh, I gave her permission, but God showed me that it was already done. It was already done. That Sunday we were in church, and I remember sitting there very proud that I had both of my daughters home. Everybody at church was happy to see them, and I was thinking, and I said this out loud, God, I'm going to always serve you. I'm going to always serve you, because the way I grew up, to have two daughters get into college and they're doing well, and things were good. I had just started a new job that January, and things were good. And then this is March, and then my life turned upside down the next day. And I said, God, really? I just said this. You couldn't give me a week with this,
Right.
But God, it was a test.
Yep.
And I passed the test.
And you passed the test.
Because I didn't allow my ego to be like, why me? God, I'm serving you. I'm in church. I'm working in the church. It wasn't about me. It was like, how do you take this and give God the glory?
But I think that's the thing also that happens, is we get caught in this space where we make it about us. And if you walk in a faith walk and you walking with God, it has nothing to do with you. The I and the we, I just said this at a conference the other day. The I and the we does not matter in God's plan and his direction.
Yeah.
And what we often get caught in that I and we. And to hear you say right before this, I'm going to serve you. And so God tested you. He put you in the fire of, okay, didn't you just said you're going to serve me. So I'm about to see if you're going to serve me if this happens.
So that Monday she was shot. I didn't sleep at all because we went to the hospital. So Tuesday night, when I finally get into bed, it's very late, but I'm still up at 5 o'clock that morning. And I slept so good, and I was surprised. But I said, well, I hadn't slept since Sunday going into Monday, so I'm tired. But then that next night I slept good, and the next night, and I was like, this is scary. Like, something's going on. Now, this is my baby now that got killed. I shouldn't be sleeping as good. But when I say God gave me the sweetest rest, and I didn't sleep long because our house was jumping, like people were in and out early in the morning to late at night. And the rest that I was able to get was probably the best. When I say it brings to life for me the walking in the sand with the footprints, that God carried me through, and even able to forgive the person who killed her. I hadn't even thought about it. So I remember watching the news, being interviewed for the news, and the guy came to our home, and so I watched the news with my family in the family room that night, and I'm watching me on television say, I forgive the person who killed my daughter, and I'm like, did I just say that? Because I didn't remember the interview that had just happened a few hours before.
Wow.
I did not I still to this day can't remember the interview, and I keep trying. The only thing I can remember is watching it. I can't remember doing the interview. And the guy asked me, what would I say to the person who killed her, who still hasn't been caught? That I forgive them. And
still to this day has not been
still
caught?
have not been caught. And it's well with my soul.
Yeah.
Because it's not about that. And so so I said that, and people were like, oh my God. And I don't even like to take credit for it, because when people are like, that's amazing, you can do that. And I'm like, it's the most selfish thing I've ever done in my life. To forgive the person who killed my baby wasn't about him.
Yeah.
Me. I knew that God had work for me to do. I did not know what. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew that unforgiveness would hinder it.
Yep.
It would not serve me, because I had just did it a year before with several people and talked about how unproductive and how bad unforgiveness is. And so without even thinking, I was able to forgive the person. So I'm watching it on the news, and I'm like, I do. And guys, another download, he said, you haven't thought about the person who killed her since she been shot Monday. This is like Thursday. And I hadn't. I wasn't angry. I was sad. I was profoundly sad. But the love and support that we had immediately, I mean, even before she died, the emergency room was filled with her friends, our friends. My husband and I are not from Maryland. And that emergency room was filled with people from Maryland. When my family finally got there, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, they were like, whoa, I'm an only child, the only niece, and the only granddaughter.
Now, where are you from?
Jersey.
Jersey. Oh.
The only niece, the only child, the only granddaughter. And when my family got, my mother lives in Maryland, but when the rest of my family got there, they were like, whoa, they never seen support like this. And I was like, with this amount of love, who can be angry?
Who can be angry,
Right?
yeah.
Like even with the profound loss, but it was the love and the trust in God that I still say, I don't know what you're going to do with this, but I'm going to still trust you.
Yeah.
I'm going to trust you until you show me the way. And within 2 to 3 months, we developed a foundation for her right away. And this is the other thing that was different for us. Remember, we had insurance.
Mm-hmm.
I had the insurance papers. Before she died, you know how people give you cards and stuff? Cards were coming in the mail immediately. People were dropping food and paper towels and toilet paper off.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our house was filled. And before we went to do the funeral, we had $10,000. $10,000 in cards, not insurance,
but the cards.
And I said that we need to really do something with this money to maybe help somebody who wanted to go to college and can't finish, who needs the money, because we can't send her to college, right? So that would be start of her legacy. But by the time we had the funeral, 7 more people had gotten shot in D.C. And I said, we need to do something. God is calling me to a higher calling. And so we developed a foundation named after her, the Ayanna J. McAllister Legacy Foundation, where we deal with gun violence, and we deal with it differently because we're not dealing with just the survivor, but the perpetrator. Why are our young Black people shooting each other? And we're not addressing it. Nobody's talking about what makes them pick up a gun in the first place. And so we've done that work. So again, higher calling.
Yeah.
It ain't about me. It ain't about Ayanna. It, you know, I remember my husband was like, I don't want anybody to forget her name. And I said, that's our job, to not forget her name. But nobody cares about her or her name. But how do we take this and make something amazing out of it to serve the people, what people need, not what's about us. Right? We don't forget her name.
Right.
So we say her name every day. We look at her picture every day. We talk, we have conversations about her in our family. My grandson, who's, he'll be 7, never met his aunt. And he even talks about her because we talk about her so much, he knows about her. You know, so to let her legacy live on, but to do things. Even my work with the police was a result of my daughter's legacy. She was in school, criminal justice major, and she wanted to be a detective. So of course that means being a police officer first. So my work with the police is also a divine calling in working with them. So if you just allow God to order your steps, whether you wear sneakers or stilettos,
Right.
It's not what you're wearing on your feet. It's who is ordering your steps. So you can wear sneakers or stilettos. You can wear Payless to Nordstrom's some red bottoms, whatever you're wearing. If God is ordering your steps, it don't matter what your footwear is.
And I think that's important. Like when we talk about this show is Sanctified and Stilettos.
Yes.
And really talking about just the multifaceted of women. When we think about how many things we deal with. And in your case, when you think you took your pain and turned it into purpose. You took a tragedy and made it triumphant. And especially to put something forth to help the perpetrator and perpetrators of violent crimes. That's amazing. Because I know God would handle me differently because I know where my faith is. But I think about most people is forgiveness ain't that easy when you talking about taking your baby out.
So, and I'm glad you said that because this is the thing. If God had asked me on Monday, I'm going to take Ayanna, is that okay with you? I would have said absolutely not. Find another girl. Like she's not up. Like it ain't her turn. Right. I'm not ready for her to go. However, God don't ask us for permission, and He is God. And to be able to stand on that and to trust Him no matter what. And that is the radical resilience, right? Like that's faith. I can't see what you're doing. Like, God, I have no understanding what this is about. And why my daughter had never even had a fight. Why would anybody think that they could take her? Like, why would that even be a thing? Right. And she's a girl. So while I thought about what I was proud about that Sunday in church was that I got 2 girls to college without having babies. That was a big deal to me. That was my biggest fear. And then I realized that I would have took any of that and then this, right? But we don't get to choose. We don't get to choose. I even remember telling my family, I'd have took a set of twins over this, right? Like the things that I thought were a big deal. You better not bring no C's and D's home. Not important, because we can get through that. You better not bring a baby in this house. Not important. Like, we can get through a baby. Like, we can support you through that. This is what you can't recover from, is dying, right? And so sometimes even as parents, and I think it's important to say, because as parents, we have expectations of our children. There's nothing wrong with having expectations, but how realistic are they? And do we miss the relationship with our kids because we don't want them to do things that would embarrass us as parents?
Yeah.
Because that would have been the case. Here I am raising my kids in church, and we got a baby, right? Like, no. Yeah. That I can get through all of that. What I cannot get through, or what is very hard to get through, is not having a daughter that can bounce back from this. So my bounce back, like Sierra says, is on 100. Yeah. Right? Like, we got to do that. And in Beyonce's song, You Won't Break My Soul.
You won't break my soul.
Right. So I stand boldly in the devil's face and say, I don't care what you bring. If Joe survived everything he survived,
then you can survive.
Right. And it's a mindset before anything happens. So before anything ever happened to my daughter, I already knew what I was made of. I know who I belong to, and I know who orders my steps. So for me, it was a no-brainer to figure this out, or let God figure it out and be obedient. Because sometimes I'm not obedient. Like, I'm like, book. I'm not writing a book. That ain't on my vision board.
We all feel that way. That I'm not doing right.
But I'll tell people all the time, I'm not interested in being the belly of the whale. So unlike Jonah, I'm going to obey. When God say do it, I'm going to do it. And I do it afraid sometimes, because sometimes I'm like, and sometimes I'm having a call with God, like, are you sure? Like, this seems weird.
This don't seem right. Like, I tell people, I always need a Gideon experience. I need you to wet the fleece and keep the ground dry. And then I'm like, when he do that and show me, this is what I'm like, okay, but wait, Lord, I need you now to wet the ground and keep the fleece dry. Because I'm the same way. And that defiant, sometimes it's like, you tell me this is what you're supposed to do. And I'm like, wait.
Are you
this
sure?
Don't sound right.
And I'm trying to decipher, is this God or is this Tyrese? Is this what I know I don't want it, and that really tells me it's God. Or when I know it's Tyrese, if it's confusing, because I'm like, God is not the author of confusion. I'm like, that's a mess. Yeah, that's probably me. That's not God.
Yeah, that's me. That's not God. Because God doesn't deal in mess.
He doesn't. Because when God gives me a download, he also gives me everything and every person I need. And they come to me, and I'm like, I might think a thing, and I'm thinking, it's just Tyrese thinking. Yeah. And then somebody else will come, hey, I want to help you with this. And I'm like, oh, okay, God, I see your work.
Yep, and I think I love the language that you're using, the download, because we don't think about like God talking to us and it being download. And so I'm looking at this computer, I'm looking at this thing, I'm thinking about how I download documents, and to really think about God giving you downloads. I love that language. How did you come up with that?
Oh, let me just tell you, because I work in mental health and I work with people who have psychosis, so I don't want to be telling people God is talking to me and they looking at me like, okay. How does that work? So honestly, because I do believe that God communicates with me, but it comes as thoughts. And they're my thoughts, but they're not mine. Yeah. Right? So the thoughts it's things I come up with, and I'm just like, I don't think like that. That ain't me. Right? Like with the book, that wasn't me. Yeah, like, I don't even want to do it. So I know that's not me. But God will press me to do something. Or the funny thing that he does is he don't let me sleep. And I'm a person who gets good sleep. I love sleep.
Me too. Ooh,
baby,
Tyrese,
I love a nap.
Right. Ooh.
The nap is restoring.
A Saturday and a Sunday nap.
It restores my soul.
Makes me happy.
Even when I have clients, if a client cancel, I'm like, 45 minutes
like
in
I
the
can
recliner.
get it in. That's how I was yesterday. I was like, I can get 30 minutes. I got 30 minutes.
So when I have that, so when I can't sleep, I'm like, okay, so then I need to study myself so that I can hear from God. So some other projects that I'm working on, downloads from God, and I'm like, woo. And then people start coming to me, and it works out, and I'm like, it's God.
This is God.
It's not me.
Yeah, and I think, we have to get into a place, but that also comes from your relationship that you had. And the relationship that you had even before your daughter's death, the relationship that you have now, is that when you have a relationship with God, when you have a relationship with Christ, it shifts the way you even think.
It does.
Yeah, it changes that whole mentality of how we think, and it no longer becomes you can decipher whether this is me or whether this God.
It's real easy. So when it's a mess, if it's confusing, if like people don't understand, if people ain't coming to me and I got to figure out who can help me, it's me. And me having projects is not bad, but God-inspired projects have to get done, right? And God gives me all the resources that I need. And it's the same thing like with you saying that, you know, with your job loss. Listen, God is the source.
Definitely.
Jobs are resources. And we have to have unwavering faith. And it's interesting to me, like when I see people who are pouring into other people and telling them it's going to be okay. But do you really believe that? Because when it's your turn, when it's your door, can you stand in that? And I've seen people not be able to stand in it. So I'm really grateful to God for my experience and being able to stand in my belief. Like well, of course it was the next day. Yeah. I'm like, God, really?
Ooh, that's a real test.
Yes.
I mean, you sit in church on Sunday and then on Monday, God, like that's a Job moment.
And I said, I'm going to still trust you.
Yeah.
I'm going to still trust you. And it really just showed me that, and then also the support that we had from so many people unexpected. Because my daughters went to school in North Carolina, we had gotten support from North Carolina because, of course, it was on the news. People saw it. They wrote us letters. They sent cards with money. I belong to Delta Sigma Theta sorority. My chapter was supportive, but another local chapter.
We're not just gonna skip over that, y'all. You know, anytime somebody say I belong to Delta Sigma Theta sorority incorporated, we have to acknowledge that.
But my the other local chapter had raised money and gave it like that's another level of sisterhood that we weren't expecting. People wrote really big checks to support us. And thank God we could have used it for the funeral, but we had insurance. And then, of course, you get crime victim money, too. I don't know if people know about that. So that was another pot of money. But we just wanted to
just mention that. And, you know, just for our listening audience, in case people are not aware, when we talk about, you know, money that is available, because many people don't know, and they come. And quite honestly, a lot of people don't have your faith, Tyrese. A lot of people don't have your faith to carry them through, or that support system.
Or the mindset.
Before
anything happens. But crime victims is really good because a lot of people don't know about it, but a lot of people aren't told, a lot of us, Black people, aren't told about it. And, you know, especially if you don't have insurance, it's a couple of $1,000s, so it can be helpful for families who don't have it. And I knew about it because I did crisis work and often would do homicide scenes, so I knew about it. And it's something that can be very helpful because funerals are not cheap.
No, and as time goes on, they get more expensive and more expensive. Yeah. And the thing is, a number of people, I'm not going to say a lot, I'm not going to say most, but people don't get insurance on their children. And even on themselves.
Because you don't think your baby's going to die.
You don't think it's needed.
But it is important that we all should have insurance. And no judgment on anybody, but we got to stop depending on a GoFundMe for insurance. And this is the thing, just like therapy, because I find that people are like, how much is your rate? But you got on Red Bottom, sis. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Say it again.
Pay for this before you pay. Because if
you
Red Bottoms hurt, they ain't even comfortable.
That's what I say.
But baby, you got to get your mind
I'm like,
right.
if I'm going to spend that much money on shoes, I need my feet not to hurt for 2 days.
And they going to hurt for 2 days. After
I need to be able to wear those heels from Monday to Wednesday with no foot problem if I'm going to spend that money.
Well, it won't be Louboutins.
No, I know that's
Sunday,
right.
That's not what they made for. But we got to really work on ourselves. Like, we got to work on our character and how we show up. And it's especially important now. It's this time that we're living in as Black women, we got to really look at how we showing up, and we got to be mentally well.
Yeah. And, you know, we talk about insurance. And one of my many things at one time, I used to work for Nationwide Insurance. And so I was a licensed agent in the state of Ohio. I didn't sell insurance, but we all had to get licensed. And I remember being in Nationwide in our sales and service center. And we would have people to come in and say, how much is my bill? And this would be their car insurance, their home insurance, whatever it was. And I can remember in particular, one person in particular, is she asked how much was her car insurance, gave her the rate, and she said, oh, I'm not paying that. That's hair appointment money. I'm going to get my hair done. And so when you talk about that, we got to make sure that we have our values in order of what's important. And if you get your mind together, it's amazing what else will follow if your mind is together.
You will expand your territory, right? Or God will expand your territory. Like, I just think about having a solid foundation in my mind. Helps me in my business. It helps me in my personal life. It just helps in so many ways. When we were younger, you might remember that when people used to give testimony, and the people, your older women especially, would be like, I thank God for keeping me in my right mind. And baby, you don't know what that's like, because when you lose it, I don't care how cute you are. Yep. It ain't pretty when you lose your mind.
Yeah. And I've seen more people who are dealing with mental illness, and you talk about psychosis and what that really looks like, how it manifests, and folks don't realize that when you got a good mind, it is a big, I'll use these simple words, it's a big deal to be in your right mind. I remember I used to listen to a pastor, an older pastor, and his prayer was, Lord, keep my mind green. And that's what I say now, Lord, keep my mind green, and then pull out my games. I play my games on my phone and make sure I can remember words. Because we take for granted that on Monday, you in a right space with your mind that can be gone on Tuesday.
And it happened fast.
Yep.
So, and I have this is the other thing that I think has really helped me keep grounded, and gratitude, right? Grateful. Work in crisis work, you see people at their very worst, and that was my job. So for 5 days a week, I see horrible stuff, horrible situations, or people in horrible situations, and so it made me always grateful, even for the little things. And I was very happy that, because I had been practicing gratitude for over a year at that time. I had been practicing gratitude, so I start my day by writing 3 things I'm grateful for. I end my day with 3 things I'm grateful for. So starting my day and ending my day with gratitude, it became a lifestyle. So even when my daughter was killed, I was able to find stuff I was grateful for, even in that situation. That right there hits different.
Yeah. And I think, when we talk, I love starting and ending your day with gratitude, because we often don't think about what it means to start and end your day with gratitude, and especially what it means to even be in meditation and devotion in the morning, and how your day can get completely thrown off because you haven't started in a space of devotion or in a space of gratitude. And we quick to always ask God for everything, but when was the last time you just said thank you, and thank you in the morning and at night?
Yeah.
And even throughout the day, in that space of gratitude. Because do we all have what we want, everything that we want? No,
Right.
Of course not.
Right.
But has God supplied all of our needs? Has God taken care of us? Has God given us the desires? Has God done? Yes.
Yeah.
And I shared this with my mother the other day. She was talking about something that she wanted, or she wished she had just a little extra money. And I said, first of all, you 82, where you going? First of all, I need you to answer that for me. But then I said to her, what do you need? I said, what do you need that God has not provided for you? Because everything that you need, you have. And I think that's the thing. So I love that gratitude and starting your morning and night with gratitude.
It changes the trajectory of your day.
Yeah.
And helps you sleep good at night.
Yeah. And when we talk about sleep, I remember I used to lay down and be like, if heaven gonna feel like this, I can't wait to get there. Yeah. And so I appreciate it. And I think on that gratitude note is where we're gonna kind of wrap things up. Appreciate you being with us. But y'all, we got to talk about this before we go, because this is Sanctified and Stilettos. So this is about women who are walking a faith walk, women who are trying to live a godly life, but also understand women who are dealing with other things. And even though we may be on a faith walk, there are still things that we deal with that every other woman deals with. But the one thing we always come out with is some great shoes and a great stiletto or a great heel. So if you haven't checked out the shoes today, Tyrese is sporting some LV, some Louis Vuitton. It's looking good over there. I decided to put on my red shoes for you all today. But when we talk about Sanctified and Stiletto, you are an example of what this podcast, what this means, to be somebody who's sanctified, who's set apart to do God's work. But in all of that, you come out on top, you come out resilient, and you come out looking great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. The shoe game is important.
Yes.
The shoe game is important, but my heels, I'm not quite at a stiletto anymore.
No.
But they still gotta be cute.
They cute. They cute. And the whole outfit is cute.
Thank you.
And you all stay tuned. I'm going to give 2 seconds. I know we're wrapping up, but I want to give 2 seconds for Tyrese to talk about another project that we're working on, so y'all can catch it on another podcast. We'll be moving forward with that and other things that we are actually doing together. And so I'm going to shoot it to her to talk about the Modern Proverbs 31 Woman really quick before we close out.
So the Modern Proverbs 31 Woman is something, again, God download a year or so ago, and again, wouldn't let me sleep until I did it. And so it started off just being a coffee table book full of photos of beautiful women, and maybe just a blurb or so telling their story. Again, I shared my idea with somebody, and they gave me more. They said, no, this is not just a book, it's a community. So the book is our first project, but we want women to join our Facebook community, because what I learned in my own work, the nonprofit world, as well as having a business, is that one, not everybody has a supportive community. I'm fortunate to have one, but met many women who don't. And so we wanted to have a community. We also know that there are 4 million or 40 million women, African-American women, who have lost their job. So this is a time where we need to start thinking about building businesses and how do we support each other, right? Like, that's important. So this community, if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, we want you in this community so that we can support you, but also you could give support. The women we're inviting to this community are not just women who are opportunists and what they could get, but women who are willing to give opportunities for other women. I tell people all the time, if you're not invited to the table, build your own. Build your own table. And this is me and a few of my friends building a table, not just for us, but for other women to come to the table. And then we build other tables to share with women. So again, it's Modern Proverbs 31 Women. We are on social media, or you can look at me up, Tyrese McAllister, on social media, on Facebook as well.
So again, we thank you for joining us with Sanctified and Stilettos. Make sure you wear your stilettos no matter where you go. And if you can't do stilettos, sneakers, a low heel will do just fine. As we think about moving forward, specifically with Sanctified and Stilettos and just who we are as Black Christian women or Christian Black women, I like to put Christianity in front of being about race. But when we think about who we are, think about how this impacts the life that you live when we're talking about, especially listening to Dr. Tyrese today and thinking about how the pain has turned into passion and what God has for us and what purpose God has for us, especially to live a fulfilling life. And that life can only be fulfilled if we are sanctified and set apart. As you continue to follow us, listen to us on every platform where you can find your podcast. Also follow me at Dr. HEB on Instagram, Heather E. Burton on Facebook. That's for my people who are over millennial age. So, like you Gen Xers and stuff, and you baby boomers, like my mom got a Facebook account. Follow me on Facebook, but also you can always visit my website at drheathereburton.com to keep up as to what's happening with Sanctified and Stilettos and everything else that I'm doing in the city or outside of the city. So thank you all for listening. Tune in again.